This year's silly season really is one for the record books. Bombshell driver moves, ruthless driver droppings, and off-track team shenanigans that have bordered on psychological warfare. Anyone who claims to have predicted 100% of everything going on this year needs to give over the lottery numbers, because some of the twists so far have been mind-blowing, and they show no sign of stopping anytime soon. One of the most major midfield twists to happen this year has nothing to do with the driver market, but could still have a huge implication on who ends up in a seat, and that is the revelation that Alpine no longer trusts Renault as an engine supplier. While I'm sure they'd certainly put it a bit more diplomatically than that, yet another engine-related retirement last time out in Hungary really seemed to reinforce the belief that Alpine is doing the right thing in distancing themselves from their parent company's failed F1 project, with their own team being the final one to give up on them, following in the steps of Red Bull and McLaren, both of whom have gone on to be massively successful after leaving their partnership with the French automaker. But the implications of the new deal will have a massive impact on more than just the metal in the back of their cars, as external influences could come into play and guarantee a seat for an up-and-coming driver. Want to know the implications of Alpine using Mercedes power units? While it could be a big enough story if they were switching for the new regulations, the fact that this could be happening in 2025 will give Mercedes a massive boost in the negotiations. And stick around, because another move in the market could have just sealed the deal for Carlos Sainz. So what's all this fuss about Alpine using Mercedes power units? Well, if you cast your mind back a couple of months, Flavio Briatore was brought back to Aston to conduct a thorough internal review in order to assist the team getting back on track. While a man with a dubious record that I don't think should be allowed anywhere near the sport, he is the man who heralded the team to their championship competitiveness of the mid-2000s. The good news for Alpine is that the issues within the team are so extreme and easily visible to someone that doesn't have brain damage that the review came to a very swift conclusion, with the solutions to their issues being delivered with blunt force. You have a driver that's causing you problems and not playing nicely? Drop them. You have an engine that has the worst track record of anyone on the grid and has been a laughingstock for a decade? Well, I think it's time to go shopping. All hyperbole aside, the Renault engine program really was showing no signs of changing whatsoever, with the French manufacturer seemingly being unable to afford to build a competitive engine for the new regulations, with rumours suggesting that Renault were putting a mere 45 million annually towards their engine program, where other teams are putting double that down in the hopes to be at the top of the pile come 2026. The solution then is clearly to take the plunge into being a customer team, which certainly gives the team some thinking to do. Well, not too much actually, as Red Bull powertrains have made it clear that they will not be supplying any teams outside the Red Bull family. Audi are an unknown entity with no guarantee of success and apparently a clown show themselves, and while that does leave two teams as options, only one has made it clear that they'd be willing to supply the Aston outfit with their engines. Toto Wolff made it clear that he'd find a mutual benefit by taking on Alpine as a customer team, with him welcoming negotiations when Alpine have their ducks in order. Talking at Silverstone, Wolff had this to say about supplying Alpine engines in 2026. It's a complicated situation because we like the idea of replacing Aston Martin with another team due to the pure learning experience. I think our organisation is set up in such a way that the more power units we supply, the better in terms of accelerating some development or reliability. So that's the point. Discussions have not gone beyond exchanging opinions and exploratory talks. Alpine need to take a decision. Do they want to continue with their Formula 1 engine program or not? And only when they have taken that strategic decision, we would dive into our agreements. But we're open-minded, and that's what we have told them. Since that press conference, Alpine have seen their car retired twice due to technical issues, which isn't exactly a new thing. The ruthless approach that Briatore has, as well as Team Aston's desperation for success, means that a deal may be in place for as early as 2025 if the I's and T's get dotted and crossed in a timely manner. We can't blame Alpine for wanting to get rid of Renault's engines as soon as possible, and Mercedes replacing Aston Martin following their move to Honda engines works out for the Brackley, or in this case Brixworth, team. The rushed nature of this deal could have some extra room for bargaining for the Mercedes camp, as there is no two ways about it. They'd be doing Alpine a huge favour by providing them engines next year. It's not like Alpine's data will be all important before the new regulations, as it's pretty clear that Mercedes have a good grasp on their current engines and wouldn't need the R&D info until the 2026 engines are in play. So it's safe to say that this gives Mercedes a few extra bargaining chips, and we have a feeling that this could create yet another twist in the driver market. Mercedes, as well as other other engine manufacturers have often used their influence to put young talents and junior prospects in their customers' cars, with George Russell at Williams and Charles Leclerc at Sauber being just a couple of recent examples of this. In return, their customers get a discount on their engine deals, which, given Alpine's limited spending in recent years and current empty seat for 2025, makes for quite the opportunity for a new engine manufacturer. I think it's pretty obvious what we're getting at this point. Mercedes have potentially been gifted an opportunity to get their junior prospect Andrea Kimi Antonelli onto the grid in a way that benefits everyone involved. Alpine get Mercedes engines in 2025 at a reduced rate, as well as Mercedes power for the new regulation, which was pretty much a cheat code for the first few years of the V6 turbo hybrid era. As well as this, they get a pretty tidy young driver with a lot of potential. In return, Mercedes gets Antonelli on the grid in a team further down the field next to an experienced driver in Pierre Gasly, where he will be under far less pressure than if he were to enter Mercedes directly. In recent weeks, it's become clear that Mercedes have a high possibility of competing for wins and championships in 2025 if their development over 2024 is anything to go by. And given the new regulations are coming in 2026, it's safe to say that the cars next year won't be too distant from what we see developed over the course of 2024. So Antonelli's entry to the main team has become less and less likely. While yes, Alpine have their own reserve and junior driver who would feel hard done by, they haven't exactly been too eager to put Jack Doohan in the seat up until this point. And not only that, but Antonelli has shown signs of being the real deal in recent weeks. But that brings us on to the next question. Would Antonelli even be ready to take the step up? Well, if you ask Toto Wolff, he is certainly showing all the signs of being every bit the prodigy that he thinks he is. Following Prema finally remembering how to put a car together, Antonelli has gone on to win 2 events, and while he is 55 points off the championship leader, he is currently absolutely dominating his teammate and future Haas driver for next season, Oliver Behrman. Not only that, but in a championship where you can score 37 points in a weekend, it's not outside the realms of possibility that the young Italian can make a championship charge in the final 5 rounds of the season. According to Toto Wolff, however, it's not the pace that was ever in question about the youngster, but rather his racecraft and general development in regards to learning the ins and outs at the sharp end of the single-seater discipline, having skipped Formula 3. When talking about Antonelli following his win at the Budapest feature, and his sprint performance was equally strong that weekend, not scoring points due to the team's tyre strategy alone, this is what Toto Wolff had to say about Kimi's performance. Kimi did a good job. That was a dominant win, 2 different tyre compounds. He was really strong and it was deserved. We have never doubted his pace, and it is about really learning. He had such a fast development, but it is about learning time management and all of these things. That's why his win was a statement. Now, clearly this is just a theory, but it's a series of events that wouldn't surprise us given just how mental this silly season has been. This would have a pretty big implication on the driver market, with many people recently seeing Alpine as a safe bet for Carlos Sainz if he is unable to secure a seat at the front of the field. All of this would change if our Antonelli theory comes to pass. However, we think that this would resolve in a pretty satisfying way. Now, you may be thinking, surely Sainz would go to Mercedes, but there would be the exact same issues that put him off the seat in the first place, with the possibility of his replacement being at a customer team breathing down his neck. No, we think that an inside agent could be the make or break for Carlos Sainz's future. Mattia Binotto's introduction to Audi as CTO and COO. That's right, the man that brought him into Ferrari at the team with the badge that his father adorns. It all sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? Well, at least that is until you remember that the leadership model at Audi is a revolving door, and they have now hired Binotto, who already has the clown makeup uniform ready to go. If Sainz does end up at Audi with his old Ferrari boss, it will be pretty funny, seeing as Sainz trying his very best to stay away from Audi has caused such a massive stall in the driver market for so long.